Welcome back to the channel, guys. So the title should give it away is kind of something around the lines of like, what if after Jaime attacked Ned and the Stark soldiers, uh, what if the world kind of just went to war with the Lannisters? And funny enough, this actually stemmed from not a crazy person on the internet, but myself. I will play you the clip right now, and then we'll go into how I came about this.
What about Jaime?
I'm half a kingdom in debt to his bloody father. I don't know what happened between you and those yellow-haired shits. I don't want to know. This is what matters. I can't rule the kingdoms if the Starks and the Lannisters are at each other's throats. So enough.
Alright, so I don't know if you guys can, see it 100%, but it's in the comment section. I was doom scrolling, found this page that posted a few Game of Thrones videos, and I said, to be fair, the easiest way to erase the debt would be to erase the Lannisters. 29 people seemed to agree with me, and, this Denzel guy said, they're covering the debt, sure. William, who spurred this whole video, says, is it really that easy, though? And it took me a hot second, and I'm like, yeah, actually, I believe it really would be that easy. So, the Starks, right off the bat, just don't like the Lannisters. They're not, married to them. They're not friends with them. They're an inconvenience the Starks have to live with. The Riverlands, who are married to the Starks, are very close allies to the Starks. If the Starks declared war on the Lannisters, more than likely it would be fought in the Riverlands, so the Riverlands would follow the Starks. The Vale, and at this point, everyone knows that the Lannisters killed Jon Arryn, the head guy of the Vale, so they would help against the Lannisters. Elia Martell was killed by the Lannisters, the Mountain, so kinda the Dornish hate the Lannisters, so they would jump in. And if we're going to be honest, the Iron Islands don't like anyone, but Theon is in Winterfell, and everyone hates the Lannisters, so it would be easy pickings for them. That is the easiest one for me to follow after the Starks and the Riverlands. The Iron Islands would just see an opportunity. Oh, well, they're going to have their backs to us, so we'll just attack them and steal their shit. I don't think the Tyrells would jump in, because it's already, 10 on 1. Why make it 10 on 2? More than likely, if I was to throw anything out there, honestly, the Tyrells would probably do the same thing that the Lannisters did to the Targaryens, where right at the end, they'd be like, oh, well, I guess since you're going to lose, we might as well jump in bed with the winners. And then I put, honestly, after describing this, it seems a lot easier, though. So, yeah, thank you, William Borkenhagen III, for inspiring this entire video. Shout out to you. Now, remember what spurred this on. So, Jaime attacked Ned in the streets after Tyrion's arrest, wounding Ned, basically crippling him. There's not exactly a Dr. Andrews equivalent in Game of Thrones in Westeros that can heal any muscle, can, put an elbow muscle from one elbow to another and fix you up like nothing ever happened. So Ned's probably out of the fight. And with doing that, Ned pushes for Jaime's arrest. And that deepened the rift between the Lannisters and the Starks, but it also raised the stakes for Westeros. So it didn't just anger Ned in this one. It angered everyone because it wasn't just a duel in the streets. It was an attack on the hand of the king. And it was an open challenge to the authority, the honor of every great house that a random dude, however his name is Lannister, would attack the hand of the king over an arrest made, in theory, by the authority of the hand of the king. And again, Robert sees the opportunity, he arrests Jaime, which pisses off Tywin, pisses off Cersei. But again, Robert is the king. And with all of this going on, I don't think Robert rides off to get drunk and go pig hunting. He maybe is a little more weary of, oh, maybe this Lannister feeding me alcohol? Maybe I don't want him to feed me alcohol. Maybe I don't want any Lannister near me. Now for the combatants who decided to join the war. So the North, outraged that Ned was even touched as Hand of the King. Robb goes, yeah, call the banners, that all stays the same. The Riverlands, who are already enemies of Tywin, they're like, cool, immediately runs into this with the North. The Vale, Lysa Arryn probably is like in the same boat where maybe not. But the rest of the Vale's like, yeah, we are go. So the Knights of the Vale ride out. The Crown lands under King Robert, who is still alive, they go. The Stormlands under Stannis and Renly. This is where this is going to take a real life situation in America. America has never been more together than it was after 9/11. They gave us a common enemy for everybody to fight. In this situation, Stannis and Renly support Robert because they have a common enemy. Renly finally has the chance to actually do something. Stannis is Stannis. He's the greatest dude like ever in this storyline. So they form a united Baratheon front. And this is where the Iron Islands could go two ways. They could say, Theon is in the north. We will help the north. We'll attack, the Lannisters. Or he could just go, well, I am Ironborn. I do be seasoned things. I'll go attack them. Like, they're going to be looking the other direction. I'll bonk them in the back of the head when their back's turned. It is what it is. And Dorne, I think, more than anyone, probably has the biggest grudge against the Lannisters. Tywin, whether he intentionally did it or not, sent the mountain and killed Elia Martell and her children. So Dorne takes its chance to get vengeance. It's not sending what's-his-nuts to King's Landing and just kind of feeling things out and then gets the chance to trial by combat against the mountain. No, the entire Dornish kingdom, if you will, is full send against the Lannisters. With nearly the entire realm against them, the Lannisters find themselves in the most dangerous situation a great house can be in, isolated, outnumbered, and hated by literally everyone. So, early in the war, Robert obviously ordered Jaime arrested. The King's Guard is kind of forced to make a choice. They're going to choose loyalty to the king or the queen's family. Maybe a few would choose the queen's family, but I think Sir Barristan Selmy, who I believe has a lot of allegiance to King Robert, because King Robert could have just been like, yeah, he fought against me in multiple battles during the rebellion, off with his head. He's like, no, I actually, because you're so good, I'm actually going to pardon you and let you keep your role in the King's Guard. So I think that alone, Jaime gets arrested. The North and the Riverlands come together like that and start smashing the Lannister raiding parties that before any of this, the Riverlands weren't as prosperous breadbasket wise as the Reach, but they were up there. They created more than the North, let's put it that way. They made more than North, and with all of these raiding parties, it turned it into kind of like a wasteland. So the North, the Riverlands, they just start smashing those people. The Vale sent its knights, which, if I wish I could bring up a map right now, but I don't have a map of Westeros handy in my office. If the Riverlands and the Starks come down from the west, and the Vale and maybe let's say the Crown lands start attacking from the east, there's not really anywhere Tywin can go but back to Casterly Rock, which is never a solid place to defend from, where you're stuck with your back to the ocean. But we kind of keep going from there. Dorne doesn't necessarily attack right away. They just start massing troops in the south, ready for when they get a ring-a-ding from the king to hey, do you want to kill Tywin? Come to this address at noon. They'll be there for that. So Tywin, who is usually the master of war, is suddenly at war at every front. Which, again, not exactly the best place to be in. Even with his gold, even with his discipline, the odds are grim. This is where the Lannisters might try to counter this stuff. So Tywin may attempt diplomacy through marriage and gold. Cersei would try to manipulate Robert, but in this version, Robert's not dead. He didn't go and do all that stuff. He didn't get mauled by a boar. He's alive. And if there's anything Robert enjoys more than just drinking and whoring, and that's war. and you are at war with somebody that you more than likely didn't even like. So Robert is happier than a pig in shit right now, so he's just going to, Cersei, shut up. And her influence is going to be a lot weaker on him. The Lannisters rely on their bannermen and the Westerlands for strength, but this is where you've got a 50-50 shot. The Lannisters do have quite a bit of gold. They do have quite a bit of resources. This is where they might, hey, send a ship to maybe a sellsword company from Essos. Is it going to be the Golden Company? Maybe. Who knows? But this is where they might try to buy out some forces to add to their own forces. But, again, with Robert alive, everything changes. Everything is... Again, Robert's happy. Robert is in his element for the first time in, 20 years or something like that? So, Robert's alive. Cersei can't just say, oh, well, Joffrey's king now. We're going to plunge them into everyone's fighting everyone for the crown. It's everyone versus the Lannisters, and Joffrey ain't shit. So instead of Tywin trying to get a coalition of people to fight a certain group, everyone's created a coalition to fight him. And this is where House Lannister, in my opinion, would collapse. Jaime would be imprisoned in King's Landing. And last I checked, they're not. I don't think there's a constitution in Westeros that states, due process, cruel and unusual punishments, yada yada, no speedy trial. So Jaime could literally just be sitting there forever. Because if it was to go to trial, Jaime, again, did not lose a hand anywhere. So Jaime is still arguably the greatest swordsman in Westeros at this time. So nobody's going to be like, hey, yeah, trial by combat, I'm there for that against Jaime. Nobody's going to do that. So he's going to be sitting in a cell indefinitely. The North and the Riverlands, they raw dog it. They go deep into the Westerlands because they can. The Greyjoys, the Iron Islands, they devastate the coast because that's what they do. Robert, again, this is where Robert is about that life. Robert is going to lead the King's Landing, anybody that came from King's Landing, the Baratheon army, the Stormlands, the Crownland army, they're about that life. Maybe they would even honestly have the Dorne forces and the Veiled Knights, and they would just be running down Tywin if Tywin wasn't already in, Casterly Rock just hiding. So the Proud Lions of the Rock are completely broken. Cersei's disgraced, Jaime's captive, and Tywin is forced to either bend the knee or they might just behead him or send him to the wall. So my favorite part of this what if video would be the aftermath. What happens after the fact? So Robert's rule would strengthen tenfold. He would have Ned's full support. Robert would crush the Lannisters and basically reassert control over everyone. The Starks would gain the prestige as the king's most loyal supporters. The Tullys and Arryns, their alliances with the crown would be reinforced. After Jon Arryn's death, it was the Lannisters are sketchy. We saw it in the War of the Five Kings. The Arryns kind of did their own thing. They weren't really involved until the very end. The Baratheons, Stannis and Renly specifically, grow stronger. There's not much of a divide in House Baratheon like there was during the TV show. The Martells finally, after decades, find some sort of justice for Elia. And the Greyjoys, depending on how you guys think, whether they joined to help or joined for themselves, if they joined to help, they may get something out of the deal. They may get a few cities on the mainland, a few towns, whatever. But if they didn't do this to help, they did it just because the Lannisters had their back turned and decided to bonk him in the head with a frying pan, they're going to get attacked right after. While we're already here and we're right next to the Iron Islands and everybody's all joined together, we might as well just go take care of the Greyjoys once and for all. I do think that, more than likely, any lands owned by the Lannisters, either one of the other major houses in the Westerlands would take control, or the Tullys would more than likely carve out a hefty amount and be like, hey, this is ours now because we won. Deal with it, which that's personally the way I would go with this. So Westeros, it would avoid entirely the War of the Five Kings if this what if scenario took place. The balance of power shifts dramatically from where it would in canon. The Iron Throne is stronger, the Lannisters fade into complete irrelevance. Another great house would just be humbled by the weight of Westeros. So what if the realm united against the Lannisters after this? Tywin's legacy would be turned to ash. That's just what it is. His legacy would be turned to ash. Ned Stark would be a hero. Robert would be a hero. There'd probably be way more knights. And because I'm always looking towards the future, this sets up a possible another what if video. Because this leads to a lot less people being killed in the War of the Five Kings, thus making it a ton more people who actually know what they're doing, able to fight the White Walkers in the future. Where I think I already did the what if video. At some point, Jon Snow is one of the leaders. Where in this scenario, Stannis is still alive. Most of the Tullys are still alive. But big players of the Arryns are still alive. Ned is still alive. Robert's still alive. All of these people with crazy military experience are still alive. Randall Tarley still alive. All of these people are still alive to fight the actual enemy. And now they're just missing a few Lannisters, which in the grand scheme, they didn't help fight the White Walkers in the first place. So it was just Jaime. So it is what it is. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you liked it, like the video. If you disliked it, double click that dislike button so I really know that you dislike the video. Subscribe, share, do all that YouTube stuff. Have a great rest of your day. Peace.